Now, conventional wisdom is that I should be talking to a Muslim, an eminent Muslim scholar, a commentator, a journalist, an academic, or an activist also. But I requested you and you agreed. Now, why do you think that it is important to have this conversation among two people who are not Muslims? I would like to hear your viewpoint.
I think it's a very important question, and all non-Muslims, especially Hindus, need to think about this question and why they need to talk about what it is like being a Muslim in today's India. Why? Because the life of a Muslim now depends on how non-Muslims. I met Khalid Safi. Khalid Safi has not turned bitter.
Mm,
He still has faith in political movement, in
mm.
democratic. Omar Khalid, Khalid Safi, Shajil Imam, and you can name scores of them. They are in jail without trial for 6 years, more than 6 years. Hindus need to de-radicalize themselves. Otherwise, Hindu society would get destroyed.
Well said, that otherwise Hindu society will get destroyed. It's going to be a long and an arduous process. Hello and welcome to the Federal. You're watching Conversations with Nilanjan. I do not have to introduce myself that I am Nilanjan Mukhopadhyay. Today we are going to be talking about something which is very simple. It's a one line subject or just a few words. What does it mean being a Muslim in today's India? I'm going to be talking about this simple thought, which could have very complex answers, with Professor Apoorvanand, who is a professor in Delhi University. He's a very well known civil society voice, somebody who's also recognized as a cultural critic, who looks at society, culture, and politics from a multi-dimensioned view. So, Professor Apoorvanand, first of all, welcome to this program. It's really a privilege to have you once again. We have featured you in our previous avatar of this program when it was called Off the Beaten Track, but now it is going to be on the proper track.
So thank you
So,
very much. It's a pleasure to be with you again.
yes. The first question, let me put it this way. You have agreed to speak with me on a subject which I'm called being Muslim in India, today's India. Now, conventional wisdom is that I should be talking to a Muslim, an eminent Muslim scholar, a commentator, a journalist, an academic, or an activist also. But I requested you and you agreed. Why do you think that it is important to have this conversation among two people who are not Muslims? I would like to hear your viewpoint.
Uh, I think it's a very important question, and all non-Muslims, especially Hindus, need to think about this question and why they need to talk about what it is like being a Muslim in today's India. Why? Because the life of a Muslim now depends on how non-Muslims behave. This is a very simple answer. Uh, because the life of a Muslim in today's India is very, very uncertain. Imagine a Muslim traveling in a train, uh, sleeping, and then suddenly a railway protection force constable or uh, officer coming to him or them and asking their name and then shoot them.
Mm.
Uh, it can happen, and it has happened.
That's
Uh, Imagine that you are a Muslim, you are traveling in a bus, and your co-passenger suddenly gets interested in what is there in your tiffin box, and
right.
he asks you to open your tiffin box, and then if it is a preparation of meat, then it's inspected and you are attacked. It can happen. It has happened on numerous occasions. Imagine you are parent of a child. You are Muslim, and your child comes to you and tells you that her teacher or her classmates, who can be 6 year, 7 year old,
Mm.
have called her Pakistani.
Mm.
It can happen. It can also happen that you are a Muslim and you quarrel with your Hindu friends, and as it happens in such quarrels, you hit your Hindu friends. Then suddenly, uh, uh, a mob of Hindus descends on your mohalla and starts destroying Muslim homes. It can happen.
Mm.
And you are sitting in a classroom. You are It's a history classroom. It's a medieval history classroom,
Mm.
and your teacher is talking about Aurangzeb or Akbar, and all eyes are on you as if you are a descendant of Aurangzeb and Akbar. Now, these are very different situations in which Muslims generally find themselves to be in.
Mm.
Now, uh, another situation which is common in a democracy. You are standing in a crowd, listening to your leader, and your leader never ever mentions your name. He seeks your votes, but he doesn't address you. So this is
Mm.
one scenario. And other is you are standing in another election meeting in which there is a political leader who addresses his constituents and tells them that he is there to save them from Muslims.
Mm.
And Muslims are taking away all the rights of Hindus, and they should vote him because he is there to save them from these Muslims.
Mm.
So these are different situations. And another situation in which the Muslims of India found themselves to be in today, this morning,
Mm.
when they opened their social media page and found that the name of the famous Barkatullah University in Bhopal
That's right.
has now been changed.
Yes.
Now, Barkatullah University was an iconic institution. And if you talked about Bhopal or Madhya Pradesh, it was impossible not to talk about Barkatullah University.
That's
But
right.
from today or tomorrow, it won't be there. Suddenly, a Muslim finds that Mughal Sarai station has disappeared. Now it's
Right.
Deen Dayal Upadhyay station. Suddenly, a Muslim finds that the mazar he used to go to and offer his or her prayer
Mm.
has now been demolished.
Has become
Uh,
a temple, as it happened in Ahmedabad,
ah,
and about which many
yeah,
journalists wrote.
or has been turned into a temple, or they find that the court suddenly decides that the mosque in which is now Bhotshala temple
Mm.
was not a mosque, or was not a Muslim shrine, Islamic shrine. It was temple, and now they can no longer access that shrine.
Mm.
So these are different situations Muslims find themselves in,
Right.
and it is very difficult for a non-Muslim to understand or appreciate the uncertainty in which Muslims in India live today. Yeah, uh, we can start visualizing these
Yes.
situations, and then imagine what it is to be like being a Muslim in today's India.
Right. You have just explained, and you have also written in different words that Islamophobia in India has become banal and normalized. Hatred is, no longer an exceptional state, but an everyday cultural baseline. That is what it appears. Now, in such a situation, the standard constitutional, ways of resisting something like this targeting of Muslims, as you listed out, some of those, we can spend the whole day
Yeah,
listing
we
out,
can go on.
big
Yeah.
long list. But because of this, is there any point of constitutional resistance, or would you say that our entire social fabric has somehow, completely broken and fragmented and almost disappeared?
I agree with you completely. I agree with you that mass radicalization of Hindus is a fact now. I was watching a video of Hindu women this morning, in which Hindu women are abusing not only Muslims but Islam. They are mocking Muslims, they are mocking their namaz, and they are asking for mass annihilation of Muslims. I was watching a video of Hindu teenage girls dancing to the tune of a very, very abusive song. Uh, so abusive toward mothers of Muslims, and you have to see the dance, the ecstasy in which these Hindu girls are, and then see, then you try to understand the level of radicalization that Hindu society has undergone, and now Muslims uh, live in this society with them, and they don't know that the neighboring child sitting on the same bench with their children, whether he belongs to this radicalized family or not, or whether he or she himself has been radicalized or not. You asked whether a constitutional response to this situation is possible, or even uh, is possible or not. I have seen, observed, and often amazed at the resilience of Muslims, because the story of last 12 years especially is a story of daily persecution of Muslims, mob lynching, uh, uh, their houses and shops being bulldozed, uh, Muslim boys and girls arrested. Uh, I'm not talking about hate speech because it's rampant. It's not even recognized as hate speech because our Indian courts, and I would underline that when a case of hate speech was taken to one of the benches of Delhi High Court, it opined that if someone utters these words, hateful words, with a smile on his lips, it should not be considered as hate speech. And it refused to act. I was reading a news report from Karnataka in which an 83-year-old RSS functionary uh, pleaded before the court that court should show show some mercy towards him, because from now on he won't indulge in hate speech. So he admitted that
All these years
what
he has
all these
been.
years he was doing it and getting away with it. He's 83, mind you. He still wants to do it. But now, since he's in court and apparently he's before a wrong bench, then he pleads that from now on he won't do it, which means that it's a habit and nature of the RSS people. Now, what Muslims have been doing, as I said, what are they facing? They are facing mob lynching, they are facing 24/7 hate speech or hate propaganda from common citizens to Home Minister and Prime Minister of this country, all political leaders of Bharatiya Janata Party uh, hurling hate speeches on Muslims. There are boys and girls being arrested, and their numbers can go in hundreds. If they raise their voice, they are arrested. If they post something on social media, they are arrested. This is what they are facing. And again, I have mentioned only a few. What they have been doing, they have been knocking the doors of Indian courts.
Right.
On each day of what is called Sunwai, they go to the court and then come on the next date. But they have been visiting courts for 10 years, 12 years. And most of these Muslims are uneducated. But they have, what they have done, they are telling the courts that we trust you. We trust the constitutional process. And all we demand is justice for us. For example, I keep meeting mother of Junaid. You would remember Junaid, the 14-year-old boy who was butchered by a mob while he was on his way on train with his Eid shopping, after doing his Eid shopping, and he was butchered. A decade has passed. His mother and his brother, they have not lost hope in justice. They keep going to court. They have not lost their minds either. And I am amazed at this resilience. I recently met Khalid Safi. Khalid Safi has spent 6 years in jail, and he is now out on interim bail for 6 months. Now, Khalid Safi is someone who took part in Shaheen Bagh protests, and he believes in peaceful protests, and I can testify to that because I have worked with him. And he was one of the first persons to be arrested in February 2020, when police started arresting people associated with Shaheen Bagh protests. I met Khalid Safi. Khalid Safi has not turned bitter. He still has faith in political movement, in democratic movement. And that is something which is fascinating, amazing for me. And I keep wondering, would it have been possible for me to be this resilient after 6 years of wrongful imprisonment, which Khalid Safi has suffered? Omar Khalid, Khalid Safi, Sharjeel Imam, and you can name scores of them. They are in jail without trial for 6 years, more than 6 years. You talk to Omar Khalid even now. He's not bitter. He's not bitter, and he has not lost hope in democratic struggle. Now I find young Muslim journalists who think it is their duty to bring out what is happening in the society, and they keep reporting it, and it is very hurtful. It hurts them because they face this violence. They take it in, and then they report it in very dispassionate manner. And I know in past 10, 12 years, I have met scores and scores of such young Muslim journalists. Then I meet Muslim lawyers. And now a new batch has emerged. Very brilliant, very brilliant, very resilient, very sharp. And
thoroughly committed to the constitutional process.
Yes, and they keep this dogged fight on. So this is what Muslims have been doing. As you rightly said, that they face defeat. They are disappointed by the courts of India. They are disappointed by democratic political parties because democratic political parties refuse to address them. Democratic political parties refuse even to admit explicitly that there is injustice against Muslims. They know all this, but they also understand the larger picture because I have met Muslims and younger Muslims. I'm 64 now, and I meet Muslims half my age, and they assure me that, sir, it will pass. And sometimes
They still have
I
faith.
find it. Uh, Sometimes I find it very hard to have that faith which they have.
That's right.
But they are responding in constitutional
And
ways,
building alliances with others who are being
building alliances.
persecuted.
Now, I must add something to it. What Muslim society is facing now is kind of a disaster. It's a disaster situation. Uh, and they are trying to rescue themselves, they are trying to survive. That's what they are doing. For example, if a house is bulldozed, a shop
Mm.
is bulldozed, everything goes for that family. Now, who will mobilize resources for that family? Not political parties. No political party does it. Now, Muslims have organized themselves in groups, which keeps a list of such houses, such fellows who are suffering
Mm.
this, and they mobilize support and they help them. They help them rebuild their homes, they help them
Homes.
rebuild their businesses. Then Muslim boys and girls are arrested,
Rebuild their lives, if one can say.
rebuild their lives. Now Muslim boys and girls are arrested. Who will pay for the? Who will organize lawyers for them?
Mm.
Who will pay for the lawyers? If they get bail, which is rare, who will pay their surety? Who will stand for surety? Now there are groups which do this work, and
Mhm.
these are not normal things. I and you, me and you, we never think about it. But now this is a day. This is a feature, essential feature of Muslim collective life or collective Muslim life, and this is what they are doing. This is how they are responding.
You know, there is another facet. While you were talking, I suddenly was reminded. Now, there are certain words which have become synonymous with Muslims. You are a scholar of Hindi linguistics, you can look at it. Say, for instance, I'll pick up one word, this word called ghuspetia or infiltrator in English, ghuspetia in Hindi. Now, as a linguist, as somebody who understands the politics and sociology of language, what does this, affixing the label of ghuspetia or infiltrator, it has now become synonymous. There cannot be a Hindu infiltrator. Ghuspetia means Muslim. What does it do through the language?
When we talk about radicalization, this is how radicalization happens. It doesn't
Mm.
happen only in hate speeches, because
Right.
you coin words and then they become part of your lexicon. You mentioned one of them, Ghuspatia, which sounds very innocuous
Yes.
and which comes across as a description.
Mm.
Ghuspatia is one who infiltrates or
Right.
who has infiltrated. Now, a closer term to Ghuspatia is outsider.
Mm.
So it started as outsider, Bahari.
Bahari.
So there are, or Bahiragata or
Mm.
Bahiri.
And in
In
Bengali, that is the word they give.
Bengali, and I think in Ahomia too, they call Bahiragata
And it
or
was heard very often during the recent election campaigns in West Bengal and
election
Assam.
campaigns. Yeah. So Bahari, Bahiragata, and then a term associated with it is Akranta, invader.
Mm.
So not only are you an outsider, you are also an invader.
Invader.
Invader, and you are an infiltrator. So you don't have a rightful claim on this land because you have infiltrated.
Mm.
And if you yourself have not infiltrated, then
Mm.
your ancestors had done
May
it,
have. Mm.
because you are progenies of Babur or Aurangzeb.
Mm.
Aurangzeb was a descendant of Babur. Now, historians tell us that by the time of Aurangzeb, the Mughals themselves had half or three-fourths of them were Hinduized, because
Mm.
they were married in Hindu families, and
Mm.
then their sons and daughters were born out of that wedlock. So they were
Mm.
not, quote unquote, pure Muslims. So even if you talk about Mughals or Muslim rulers, their descendants were not Muslim in that sense of the term,
True.
but the label outsider remained. It was there, and many respectable and sensible writers and intellectuals also used it, that they were outsiders. And that is how it became normal for us, for our linguistic practice. And then it was not very difficult for the outsider to turn into infiltrator.
Hmm.
And when you turn into infiltrator, you become illegal.
Right.
If you are an infiltrator, you are illegal. You are poaching on my land. You are taking away my resources, and the rightful way to deal with you is to push you back to your original land.
Hmm.
And then another associated term emerged was pushback.
Hmm.
Infiltrators have to be pushed back.
Hmm.
And I find it again very interesting that we also use this word pushback.
Hmm.
So you push back someone who has come from somewhere else, but you cannot push back someone who was born here. And you have labeled him or them as infiltrators, and then you push them back. As happened, we know of such cases from Bengal and Assam, and courts had to tell the government that that it has to bring them back to India, and they were brought back from Bangladesh. So they were not pushed back; they were pushed.
Hmm.
So this is what these words do. They change our mentality. They change our way of thinking. They change our way of looking at Muslims, because
Hmm.
now all Muslims are outsiders because they are descendants of outsiders.
That's right.
This is how we look at it. And then the journey from outsider to infiltrator is not a very long journey. It's a very short. And all of them become infiltrators. And that's why this panic in, especially for Bangla speaking Muslims,
No,
uh,
in
because
fact, over the last 2 years, since the BJP began widespread preparation for the elections in West Bengal, which eventually led to their victory, anybody who was a Bengali speaking and had a Muslim name, was considered to be a Bangladeshi by society. There were large number of instances where people started taking action, refraining from having any interaction, not hiring domestic maids who were Muslims and spoke Bengali. It is understood that is the way it is done. Now the BJP has launched another slogan: detect, delete, and deport. Very
yeah,
nice, fancy, D. This is the
they did.
government of acronyms, so it is another acronym. That is. Now, moving on from here, let's look at, we have said that how listed talking about various ways it is happening. Political representation of Muslims is something that we can also spend several hours talking about it as to how it has declined to such an extent that now the BJP has no qualms about declaring that we do not need to feed any Muslims, as it used to be done previously. There used to be some amount of, prior to 2014, there was some kind of tokenism by the BJP, but that is no longer the case there. Even other political parties, why do you think that they have suddenly become conscious of the fact that they should not be feeding Muslims in elections, not being nominating for Rajya Sabha or for the legislative councils wherever there are? Why do you think is this kind of defeatism is there, that let us not take a chance? Does it really mean that the majoritarian idea has become so dominant that nobody wants to? Uh,
Now, let's face this social and political reality
yes.
dispassionately. The social and political reality is that uh, two kinds of persons would never be treated as representatives by the majority.
Hmm.
One, Hindus find it very difficult to elect a Muslim as their representative.
Hmm.
So Muslims have to find a seat, a constituency, where there is a significant percentage of Muslim voters, which would
Yes.
ensure their victory. Otherwise, it's impossible because Hindus are not ready to recognize Muslims as their representative or their leader. This is the common sense, political common sense. And that's why, if you look at the pattern of selection of candidates, even
Hmm.
by the secular parties, forget Bharatiya Janata Party, they look at safe seats.
Hmm.
Safe seats where there is a significant Muslim population, which would then help a Muslim candidate win the election. You can look at what has happened in Assam.
Hmm.
I'm told that 22 or 23 Congress party is now literally a Muslim party.
Only two MLAs are non-Muslims in the Congress legislature party at the
Yeah,
moment.
and 22 are Muslims. And that's
Yes.
why Hemanta Biswa Sarma says that it's a Muslim party.
Hmm.
It's not a Hindu party. And they were elected from seats where Muslims could influence the voting pattern. And now, through delimitation, what has been done in Assam is that number of such seats has reduced significantly.
It's a very carefully carved out to ensure that the number of seats in which the Muslims could influence if they voted en bloc for a particular candidate or a party, that they could ensure her or his victory. Those number of seats have been reduced, and now with the plan of delimitation, possibly this is what will be attempted by the BJP throughout the country.
Yeah, but we were talking about political culture which has existed since
Yes.
independence
Since
or
beginning,
since.
Maulana Azad was fielded also from a Muslim majority, not majority, as in significant part were Muslim voters in a constituency in Uttar Pradesh in the first Lok Sabha elections.
Yeah, so this is our social reality. This is our cultural reality. And political parties function in this reality. They are not there to change this reality. They say that we have to get votes from these voters who harbor this mentality. And if you ask us uh, to indulge in some audacious move, we can't do that. We can't afford that. So that's why Muslim representation would always remain very precarious. Uh, because even the seats we call Muslim dominated seats are actually Hindu dominated seats,
Hmm.
because uh, the percentage of Muslim votes can go up to 40, but the majority is, and if you succeed in polarizing Hindus against Muslims, then even if Muslims constitute 40% of the constituency, no Muslim candidate can win from there. That's the reality, and that we saw in Bihar, where Rashtriya Janata Dal was considered to be a party of Muslims. Okay, but its tall leader, one of the tallest leaders, Abdul Bari Siddiqui, he could not win his seat. Why? Because the traditional voter bank of Rashtriya Janata Dal, which consisted of Yadavs,
Hmm.
they decided not to vote for Abdul Bari Siddiqui, and they voted for a Hindu candidate from BJP or other party.
Right.
And that's how Abdul Bari Siddiqui was defeated. So even if you stitch an alliance of castes and social bases, that social base remains essentially Hindu, which is Muslim skeptic,
Hmm.
and which doesn't see Muslim as its natural representative. So
Hmm.
if it has to choose between a Muslim and a Hindu, it will choose a Hindu, given a chance.
Hmm.
Uh, and that is what has been happening in elections after elections after elections. Now, political parties tell us that we have to win majority,
Hmm.
and votes majority remains with Hindus. So we have to appeal to them. So even if we are pro-Muslim in our politics, not anti-Muslim, if we are not anti-Muslim, then we can come to power only if Hindus vote for us.
Right.
And we cannot afford to alienate those Hindus by fielding more Muslim candidates, because we would be seen as a Muslim party. So that leads to a very ironical situation in which even secular parties then desist from fielding Muslim candidates.
At this point, let me ask you a very direct political question. This is not something that has happened overnight. As we were talking about, this political culture has been there right from the first Lok Sabha elections.
Yes.
It has increased also, this extent of the popular support for the Hindutva idea and the ideology has also increased progressively through the years. The most important transformations came about through the Ram Janmabhoomi or the Ayodhya Ram Mandir agitation. That was what really proved the mass mobilization of people. Now, in politics, we have always heard the word, this new was created by the media, soft Hindutva. And a large number of parties, non-BJP parties, started using soft Hindutva techniques. Leaders going to temples, not fielding, as you said, adequate number of Muslim candidates. As they should be, considering the fact that they are 14 to 15% of India's population. Ideally speaking, we should have 14 to 15% of legislator and lawmakers from that community. Now, in a situation like that, what do you think can be done to roll this back, or it cannot?
If things remain as they are today, it cannot be rolled back.
Okay.
So political parties have to be bold and honest and sincere while addressing their constituents. They have to tell their constituents, and mostly Hindu constituents, that Muslims have a legitimate right, political right, over India, because this was the dream of Golwalkar. What had Golwalkar written in his treatise? It was that Muslims, not only Golwalkar, also Deen Dayal Upadhyay and others.
Deen Dayal Upadhyay, Savarkar wrote a lot of
Golwalkar, because their dream was that if, unfortunately, Muslims continue to live in the land of India, they shouldn't have any political right. That is their dream. They shouldn't have any political right, and they shouldn't have any cultural right. They would be allowed to live their animal lives and continue with their animal functions. And even there would be constraints and restraints that BJP or RSS would from time to time decree. How it can be rolled back? As I said, that it depends on if you manage to change the dominant discourse of the time, which is that India is only for Hindus, and to which other political parties also subscribe to, by not talking about Muslims and Christians, and by not telling Hindus that, well, all religious minorities or cultural minorities have a legitimate right, and they have a right to get represented and to represent India at different fora, in legislative assembly, in governments. They can head governments, and they should not be defensive. I remember two campaigns. One was in 2017 when Gujarat assembly elections were taking place. And you would remember that then the BJP started a campaign against Congress party. That is, if Congress party comes to power, Ahmed Patel would become the chief minister.
Right.
Now, Congress party should have told upfront its electorate that Ahmed Patel is a Gujarati. Well, he's a Muslim, but he's an MP. He's a voter, and he has right to vote. And all voters have a right to also represent. So Ahmed Patel has a legitimate right to be chief minister if the Congress Legislative Party elects him as its leader. But Congress Party didn't do it. It went on defensive. Similarly, in Assam, Himanta Biswa Sarma and Bharatiya Janata Party started this campaign that if Bharatiya Janata Party gets defeated, and that was, I think, last assembly election.
In the previous,
Badruddin Ajmal would become the chief minister.
that's right.
Now, Assamia people needed to be told that Badruddin Ajmal
Has every constitutional right to be chief minister.
has every constitutional right, but they didn't do it. They went on defensive. They became defensive. There was no need to go defensive. And this habit of going defensive on this question has now landed us in a situation when we cannot even utter the word Muslim.
That's right.
That needs to change. I was told that Rahul Gandhi, in a recent meeting with the Muslim leaders of his party, told them not to use the word minority and start calling themselves as Muslim. Now, this is not something which Muslims need to do, or Muslim leaders of his party need to do. This is what he needs to do.
He needs to do.
Because I have not seen, I can be wrong, but I have tried to read or listen to all his speeches, all his interventions, and I can say, and I stand corrected if someone does it, I have not seen the word Muslim in his parliamentary interventions, except once, and his public speeches. Congress party leaders or even left leaders don't do it. They don't utter the word Muslim unless you start uttering this word. And it should not be seen as very courageous act to do so. When I was watching the press conference of this courageous cockroach party, and I wish them all success, but they couldn't utter this fundamental fact of India that apart from students and others, it's actually the Muslim population which is facing persecution, maximum persecution. And this I would expect any young man or woman to say. So this is our failing. We don't do it. And it's not only, as I said, that it's our social culture, because I don't see, if you look at the news reports of last week, I think more than 6 Muslims were killed. Many Muslim houses were demolished. But I have not seen an editorial, single editorial. We don't mind it. No.
So this is what you had said, in the initial part, and you have written that violence against Muslims has become banal. It is now part of our everyday life. Our sensitivity quotient has gone down. So now, a last question, as we try to wind up this conversation, it can go on for days. This is something Indians need to talk about. We hope that we have actually just catalyzed a process of a similar kind of discussion. But what should, we started off, what should the Hindus do? The non-Muslims,
Yeah.
those who do not agree with the
I
majoritarian idea of the BJP.
I think this is the question we need to ask. What should Hindus need to do? I think Hindus need to take control of their lives. This is the first thing that they need to do. Take control of their religious occasions, festivals, and not outsource them to organizations like Bajrang Dal or Vishwa Hindu Parishad. They need to look at what is happening in their religious processions. So if in their religious processions we don't see praise of Durga or Kali or Ram, and instead what we hear is abusive songs directed against Muslims. This is something which Hindus which should alarm Hindus, and they need to start, I would say, a process of detoxification. This is one. Hindus need to start this conversation. Their dining tables. They need to start telling their relatives and friends that they won't entertain anti-Muslim hateful comments
Mm.
That's the minimum that we can start doing. Uh, Hindus need to start telling their political leaders that if they come to them and seek their votes, they should seek their votes on their worldly affairs, which is employment, uh, civic facilities, etc., and reject them when they ask for their votes, acting as defenders of Hindus or Hindu faith. So that should not be the platform. So
Right.
Hindus need to do a lot to detoxify and de-radicalize themselves, and that starts from their homes, from their schools. They need to ask the NCRT authorities, why is it that in the textbook of my child, I don't see Mughal history?
Right.
Why is it so? Or as a young man told me day before in metro, he told me that he was a man from Supal, Bihar, and he was
Mm.
visiting Delhi, and he had gone to see the monuments, Lal Killa, and then Qutub Minar, and then Lotus Temple,
Mm.
and he was very disappointed.
Mm.
He told me that I went to Lal Killa,
Oh.
but there I didn't find anyone to tell me about the history of Lal Killa. What I got to see was some firearms related to Indian National Army of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose and one or two more artifacts. But I couldn't know about the history of Lal
The
Killa.
Red
Now,
Fort.
this is a young man from Supal, and he is not as enlightened as the cosmopolitans. But he wonders why he is not told this. Now, he is a Hindu boy. He is asking this question. And these questions need to be asked. We need to start asking questions. This is what Hindus need to do. Uh, Hindus need to, and I will underline this, Hindus need to de radicalize themselves. Otherwise, Hindu society would get destroyed.
Well said, that otherwise Hindu society will get destroyed. It's going to be a long and an arduous process. The ultimate goal obviously has to be to reclaim the Indian constitution and ensure that it is not a cut and dried kind of a text, but is actually a living document. Thank you, Apoorvanand, for joining me on this conversation. It's been a very important conversation, I think so, because we need to look at something which we are seeing but not discussing it at any point of time. So I hope that our viewers would have heard this and possibly start doing some of the things which Apoorvanand has suggested. Uh, Muslims to unify with other downtrodden groups, other targeted groups. They are not the only ones who are being targeted in society. And likewise within Hindus, that detoxify themselves, as Apoorvanand said. Thank you very much once again, Apoorvanand.